Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a lot, so let's just skip all of this and go. Anastasia Beverly Hills. You know, back in the day, Anastasia Beverly Hills, because, you know, there's the brand and there's the person, but the brand was known for their brows. You know, they had celebrity clientele getting their brows done. Every new brow product they came out with, you just had to have it. Pomade, dip brow, brow wiz, the brow stencils, all of that, you had to have it, right? And I feel like they really didn't become that girl until modern Renaissance. They did have eyeshadow palettes before that, you know, Amrezy, Self-Made, but it was really modern Renaissance that just solidified them as that girl of a brand. And it's almost like, you know how people consider Charlotte Tilbury, you know, very posh, very... That's the status that Anastasia Beverly Hills had risen to after modern Renaissance. And I also think modern Renaissance is what solidified them as just more than just a brow company. Because again, you know, like the Amrezy palette, all those, they didn't really get the same hype that modern Renaissance got and still has to this day. To this day, there are people, they'll go to war over modern Renaissance, okay? So it was really at that point that Anastasia Beverly Hills became that brand of a girl. And after that, everything that they launched, you had to talk about it. You had to buy it because, again, it was just that it brand. You knew views were going to come in if you reviewed them. You knew that it'd be the latest thing that everyone would be using, everyone would be talking about. And it stayed that way until Subculture. And if you were not around for the Subculture era, you're very lucky. But if you don't know what happened, basically they announced they were coming out with a new eyeshadow palette, Subculture, and again, because they had, you know, risen to this type of popularity, no one had any reason to question Subculture. You know, it was just like, oh, Anastasia's coming out with something, oh, you know it's going to be good, nothing to worry about, right? And then people started getting Subculture. They started reviewing Subculture, and the brand's response to the feedback is what killed it for them in that moment. Let's see, Alyssa Ashley and Raw Beauty Christie, I would say, were like the forefront of the, they're the reasons for the negativity around this palette. Even though way before either of them posted their reviews, there were smaller creators saying the same exact things that they were saying, but you know, bigger audience, more people, my phone's gonna keep doing this, sorry. Bigger audience, more people looking at them. So they got most of the flack for that. And if you guys are wondering what they said about the eyeshadow palette, basically they said that, you know, it doesn't blend that well. It's very powdery. It's very chalky. It's very this. It's very that. It's very all things that like they're allowed to say about the palette. You know, it's anyway. And that's really when I got like my first introduction to Norvina. And I feel like as the video goes on, like, we'll see a pattern here, but basically Norvina, you know, ABH employees, ABH makeup artists started making very shady tweets, very shady statements, you know, and basically said, well, if you don't like it, it's user error. You know, it's any pro knows how to use this. Any pro knows how to make this work. It's literally you. Like, the problem is you if you can't use it. Like, we're known for having good stuff, so if you don't know how to use it, just say you don't know how to use it, but don't give our stuff a bad reputation. Let me tell you something out there. If you own a brand, that's not, like, I don't think that's ever a good way to approach this type of situation, okay? Because unless you're one of those brands who actually promotes themselves as an artist brand, you're hurting yourself by saying stuff like that. Because you promote yourself, especially a lot of these brands promote themselves like, my product is going to make your life so much easier. You know, it's going to cut down your makeup routine. It's going to make retouching throughout the day easier for you. Is it a makeup artist following you throughout the day who's going to retouch for you? No, it's you, the consumer, the person buying this, who's going to be retouching throughout the day. You're not marketing to artists, to only professionals. You're not making most of your money from professionals, and those are the people that you're focusing on. So you can't sell it to me You can't want my consumer money and then once something's wrong tell me, well, you're just a consumer, you're just a makeup wearer, so you don't know how to use it, that's why you can't make it work. If you guys can't tell, I really dislike when brand owners do that. And I know I myself cooled off from buying anything from the brand, and a lot of other people did as well, because the hype died down for them. Of course, they were still a very popular brand, but their launches didn't have the same, it didn't hit the same like modern Renaissance days after Subculture. And I believe that happened in 2017. So then we're gonna fast forward to last year, 2019. Anastasia Beverly Hills announces that they are coming out with the Riviera palette. And I'm not gonna lie, I saw the palette and I thought, I am intrigued, you have my interest. Of course, they had still been launching things since Subculture. You know, they had Soft Glam, Prism, all these palettes, but Riviera stuck out for a lot of people because it felt like this was their way of coming into the community with something different, because a lot of their palettes are similar. A lot. They also had Norvina, the Norvina ABH style type of palette during that time too. Very, you know, purples, pinks, and nudes. A lot of their palettes. But when Riviera came out, it was pops of color in there, and you were like, okay, maybe ABH has someone new working at the brand. So you saw more buzz after Riviera. And then after Riviera, sorry if you guys see me keep looking at my phone, I literally had to write down like a whole timeline of everything that's happened. So after Riviera, they had the Alyssa Edwards palette. They collaborated, came out with that palette. Again, more color, and you started hearing more people talking about them. Also, keep in mind that at this time, like, makeup was different. You guys know, like, there's always trends, there's always a shift in makeup. You know, right now you could say it's kind of going back to soft glam, nude eye, stuff like that. But that was, you know, that shit, we were still in that shift of very colorful eyeshadow, cut creases, all these designs on your face and stuff like that. So that community, those people who like their eyeshadow like that, were very intrigued to be seeing palettes from Anastasia Beverly Hills that look like that. So they came out with Riviera, they came out with Alyssa Edwards. They were kind of back on the map. But this is what did it for Anastasia Beverly Hills. On Twitter, Norvina announced that she was doing a PR search for Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I don't even know what you would call that. Like, just all hell broke loose. She announced the PR search, and I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. I've never seen people act that way. Basically, you know, she just said, tag me in your looks. Let me see your looks in Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'll be adding people to the PR list. And people started seeing like, oh, I was really added to the PR list. And then people started seeing other people being added to the PR list. So more and more people, every single time Norvina got online, more and more people were trying to get her attention and show her their looks so they could be added to the list, right? It came to a point where Norvina could have gotten online and said, you know, I have a funeral to go to tomorrow, and within 5 minutes there's 3,000 comments or replies to her tweet, and they're all comments like, I mean, that's really sad that you got a funeral to go to, but I mean, look at my makeup look right here. I've got an eyeshadow look you can wear to the funeral. Like, that's the point that it got to. And I really don't even know how you would describe that, because there were two sides, two outcomes to this PR search. And the one side was the ABH stands, okay? People made it onto this PR list and did not know how to act, okay? People started making group chats over this. They started calling themselves Norvina's whores. People got tattoos to show their gratitude to the brand for putting them on the PR list. And on the other side, there were people who didn't make it onto the list, and now they felt some type of way because their friends were doing this. People were falling out with each other. You know, if you were happy about being on the list, now you were a suck up. If you were sad about not being on the list, then you were told to be quiet because, you know, you should just be happy for other people and it's not about you. It just got way too out of control. Like, it came to a point where you would log on to Twitter, and if you followed a good amount of makeup Twitter on there, it's like your entire timeline was just about the ABH PR list. And something that came out of this is that for the hundreds of thousands of people who were added onto the Anastasia PR list, it created a very almost cult-like loyalty to Norvina and the brand. Because think about it, especially since these are hundreds of thousands of smaller creators being added onto the list. You know, Norvina or ABH posted on Instagram what the welcome package looks like. They said it's like $4,000 worth of product that you're receiving when you're added to the ABH list. And you being a smaller creator, you're probably not on that many PR lists. You probably don't have that many interactions with brands, especially brands to the magnitude that ABH was. And you probably don't have that easy of access to a brand owner like Norvina. Norvina's the president, but you guys know what I mean. Like, you don't have that close of access to most brand owners. I believe she was even in group chats with some of these people, right? So it created this type of loyalty where, like, you could not say anything bad about Anastasia Beverly Hills because, like, just in groups would attack you wherever you were saying it, whether it was on YouTube, it was on Instagram, it was on Twitter. Because these people felt like, here's a brand that took a chance on me, so it's almost like I owe them to be a stan for the brand. And other people started noticing this, and other people were like, you know, despite Norvina and ABH saying that they're doing this because they want to invest in smaller creators and they want to show other creators that you don't need the numbers, you don't need this, you just need the talent, I smell something a little fishy here, especially when other brands started doing it as well. Other brands started coming out and saying that they're doing PR searches and, you know, tag them, use their looks, stuff like this. And other people were like, I feel like these PR searches are just very easy free marketing for you. Think about it. If you want to be a part of my PR search, you need to use my products, you need to tag me. Obviously, these people won't be saying negative things about your products because they want to be on the list. So it got to a point where, you know, even Norvina realized, like, this became a lot more than I thought it was going to become. So she came out and she said, you know, I realized that I have changed your timelines in the last few months. I get it. I'm going to cool off on the PR searches, or I'm only going to do PR searches this way, blah, blah, blah. I won't be doing them as much anymore. And then she did a couple more PR searches after saying that. But then the whole PR search thing died down with Anastasia Beverly Hills, and then it also died down with other brands as well. And then the Jackie Aina palette launched. Now, if Riviera and Alyssa Edwards and the whole hype of the PR search did not put ABH back on the map after the little slip up they had with Subculture, the Jackie Aina palette surely did, okay? It sold out multiple times. It was awarded like best eyeshadow palette at Sephora. You know, it was that palette of 2019. I almost forgot what year last year was. It was in a lot of people's favorites, and it was literally awarded a lot of people's best palette, best launch of 2019, right? But the problem came that they announced it, you know, it was leaked, and then they announced it. It got its little moment, and then ABH quickly moved on to the foundation and the setting powder launch. And people were like, y'all gave Jackie like a New York Minute worth of promo for her palette and then moved on to something else. And it didn't help the brand that right after that, Norvina announced the Norvina umbrella under the Norvina brand under the ABH umbrella, where, you know, there would be Anastasia Beverly Hills, the main brand, and then there was going to be Norvina, the little sister brand, where Norvina would have more focus on you know, the direction of that brand. And people were like, okay, this is probably like the best palette you've launched this year, and you gave it like no love, moved directly onto a foundation, and now you're coming out with your own eyeshadow palette. The people did not like that. So Norvina 1, 2, I believe 3 came out, and people started saying, you know, this is giving us very ColourPop, these back-to-back-to-back launches. And I believe the reasons that we're given is that, you know, our stuff keeps getting leaked, we have to push stuff back, we have to push stuff forward, and it's a very valid concern as a consumer to say that these back-to-back launches are very overwhelming. You know, it feels like you gotta buy everything to stay in the know, and it feels like you're being pushed all this stuff at the same time. You don't know what to buy, you don't know this. That's a very valid thing to say as a consumer, but you also have to think from the brand's point. they don't care. They don't care, child. Okay, they are, yeah, they're pushing you all of this stuff because they want you to buy all this stuff because they want to make money. So they don't care about that criticism, but it's a very valid one to have, right? And another thing about the Norvina brand is that it's very different from the ABH brand, where the ABH brand gives you posh Beverly Hills. The Norvina brand gives you TikTok. This is coming from someone who you guys know likes colorful eyeshadow, but the Norvina brand gives you very, you know, on trend. Y'all know what I'm trying to say and be nice about saying it. And that turned off a lot of the OG ABH lovers because they liked that about ABH. You know, they liked that ABH kept it very simple, very neutrals, rose golds, neutral eyeshadow looks. They liked that about the brand because of that, you know, posh, brunch, very tea vibes. And then here comes the Norvina brand that's very loud, very colorful, very in your face, and the two clash together. So, you know, people are just, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this new sister brand. And then the Halloween party came, and of course there was drama around that, but there's drama every single year because that party is considered like the industry event of the year. If you get invited, if you get to go to the ABH Halloween party, again, you're that girl. And with everything that had already happened with the PR search and how divided everyone was, of course it wasn't going to, you know, be without any drama, be without any fault there, right? And I can say a lot of people switched up with this whole PR search, with the Halloween party invites. A lot of people did let it go to their heads, and that's the thing about this industry, that you need to remain grounded, because you see like how quickly all of this can go to your head when you start getting some attention, when you start getting, you know, some recognition, some followers. Because think about it, these are people who are still very small creators, they have very small numbers, but just that little taste of being in the popular crowd from being on the ABH PR list was going to people's head. They were talking down to people. It was like, listen, if you feel some type of way about not being invited to the party, then that's this and that's that. And like, you see just how easy it is. So this is for any of you creators out there who are watching, like, you need to, you always need to keep yourself in check, okay? But the Halloween party came. Of course there was drama because, you know, the party had the creators, and then they had a section for bigger creators, and it was like, oh, so I'm not as good to be in the same VIP area as them. And it was like, okay, you know what? Let's just fast forward, okay? Then we have the announcement of the Carly by Bell palette. And of course that palette was leaked as well. But going back to the whole, you know, back-to-back-to-back launches, yes, the Carly by Bell palette was leaked and people were like, that's so messed up. And that's why, you know, they have to keep coming out with these things, because if it's leaked, then they have to hurry up and launch it. But Carly said it was leaked like a week beforehand. You know, like, they still, that's the thing with these leaks. They're leaked like maybe a week, 2 weeks before they're supposed to launch. They still had the intentions of launching these things around the same time. So it's like, that's really not. But anyway, Carly by Bell palette was announced, and people were like, okay, another eyeshadow palette. That had, you know, its feedback, whether good or bad. And then shortly after that, they announced the Norvina, I think, minis, the mini versions for Norvina. People are like, okay, now come on, another launch, really? So you're doing the same thing to Carly that you did to Jackie, where she's not getting any real promo, real effort put in, and they like really didn't. I really saw a promo for the Carly palette for maybe like a week, and then we were moving on to another Norvina brand launch. Especially like when it's a brand collabing with someone, yeah, that person's audience, their followers, are going to expect you to give that person some shine. And a lot of people felt like with a lot of the collabs that they did, they weren't. It somehow always went back to Anastasia Beverly Hills, the brand, or Norvina, the brand. So now we get into 2020. You know, it's the beginning of the year. It's so New Year's resolutions. Everyone's saying that they're going to do better. It's going to be their year. So Norvina comes out and she says, okay, you know, what do you guys want to see moving forward from Anastasia Beverly Hills? And when we're coming off of a time where people are saying, like, you've given us too many eyeshadows, okay? So since Riviera, Alyssa Edwards, Jackie Aina, the Norvina palettes, I don't even know at this point if I'm counting correctly, the minis, the Carly, you guys gave us like, what, 10 eyeshadow palettes last year. It's a new year. I told you guys that 2020 was going to be the year of bronzers. People told Norvina that they want bronzers. They want an extension of the bronzers that they already had. They want complexion products. They want, especially since more people felt like better undertones could have been added to the ABH foundations. They were like, give us complexion products. And Norvina said, I can't do that. I can't do that for y'all. Why can't I do that for y'all? Because retailers aren't looking for that. That's not what they want. They want something innovative. They want something new, and complexion products is not what they're looking for right now. And when I say retailers, I mean like Ulta, like Sephora. You know, ABH is sold on its own website, but they're also sold at retailers like Ulta, Sephora, Macy's. And Norvina's reasoning for saying that she can't come out with complexion products is because those retailers are not going to want to stock their shelves with complexion products. They want innovative. Now, this next part of the video, just act like you don't hear this part, okay? I'm talking to you, Norvina. Norvina, come on. Why are you lying to these people like that? Why are you lying? You know. Anyway, and then after giving that reasoning on why she couldn't come out with complexion products, we got another eyeshadow palette. She came out with the Amrezy collab. And I believe around that time she did say, like, we're gonna cool off on launches and eyeshadow palettes for right now. Since then, I do believe she's launched Norvina 4. And after the Amrezy palette, she also came out with the mascara. And people were like, so this is the innovative that these retailers are looking for, that you can't come out with complexion products? A mascara that looks really similar to the Fenty mascara that just came out. This is the innovative that you came up with. Okay. And it's really within the last few months that things just went from worse to worser for Anastasia Beverly Hills. First, people start getting mass removed from the PR list. You know, people started noticing that they weren't receiving this launch or that launch. They reach out to the PR contact and they're like, oh, sorry, you've been removed from the PR list. So of course they all come running to social media like, I was removed too. Well, why was I removed? Is it because I have a smaller audience? Is it because, you know, of this? Why didn't you remove bigger creators? Is it because of that? Is it because of this? Why wasn't I informed that I was removed from the PR list? And then Norvina came out and said, you know, yeah, it stinks, but the list just got too big. You know, we removed people so we could add new people. If you were removed, there's always a possibility you could be added on later. And honestly, like, that's really how that part of the industry works. Brands can and they will remove you at any point for any reason, and it's like, they're not sending you this stuff because they like you. They're not sending you this stuff because they just think your artistry is the best thing that they've ever seen in the world. And it sounds harsh, but I need people to understand this reality, because the loyalty that's given to these brands because they put you on their PR list or because they give you a sponsored post, that loyalty is what ends up hurting your feelings when this very realistic thing happens to you, being removed or unfollowed. If you treated it like what they see it as, a business transaction, you put less feelings into it, you know, maybe you could save yourself from feeling hurt later on down the line. When they are putting you on their PR list, they are out here like, listen, whose hands can I put my product in that's gonna sell this stuff, okay? I send this to you, they see it on Mary Beth, and they wanna buy it. That is why they're sending you this stuff. I don't care what anybody says, okay? That is why they are sending you this stuff, because these PR packages, these press releases, they're marketing, they're advertising for the brands. That's what it is. Okay, so yes, it is a very normal thing for the industry. It is a very common thing, especially when you've been doing it so long, you're very used to it. And by that point, like, your feelings aren't hurt. You're just like, okay, it is what it is. You move forward, right? So yes, it is a very common thing. However, going back to Norvina and the brand, when Norvina addressed it, she was very, like, I don't have any control of the PR list anymore. You need to reach out to someone else and get answers and get questions and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but you were very hands-on with putting these people on the list, with, creating this PR search and being very vocal about wanting to support smaller creators and doing stuff like that. So you can't really be surprised when they come to you now for answers once they're confused on what's going on. And as a brand, like, you should have thought about this before all of these PR searches, which is why, a lot of people have said that this was a marketing thing. The PR searches were a marketing thing, because you should sit down and think, okay, this is the PR list that I want to have. I want to have this many people on my PR. I'm going to reach out to this many people. I'm not going to go over that amount before I solidify each slot that I have, so that I don't end up in the position where I'm now offering PR to more people than I expected, or I'm offering more PR than I have to send out. Because I've also seen brands say that, like, oh, well, we didn't have any more PR to send out. Okay, but you shouldn't have reached out to 500 people if you only had 200 packages to go out. You see what I'm saying here? So yes, it is a common thing in the industry, but it certainly could have been handled better by the brand. So some people accepted that they were removed. They thanked ABH for the time that they were on the list, said I was going to keep working to get back on it someday. Some people were not so gracious, and then let it be known that, look, I feel some type of way. I feel like I was used. I feel like I was this. Both sides are entitled to feel how they want to feel, right? Moving forward, it comes out that ABH is partnering with an MLM. There are plenty of videos out there on, MLMs, why people dislike them so much, but people were not happy when they found out that they were partnering with an MLM brand. So of course they bring this to Norvina's attention, to which Norvina says, I'm just as outraged as you guys are finding out that this is happening, because I had no idea about this. I didn't know. People were like, again, you pretend you don't hear this part of the video. Norvina, why you like these people like that? What? Girl, sister girl, come on. Okay. Especially since the collab had like branded packaging for it. It had packaging for the collaboration with the MLM, like the name and stuff like that. I was like, you don't do like a Google search before partnering with a brand? I would assume they do like extensive research before collaborating with influencers on these palettes, on this stuff like that. Especially like the legal teams, the PR teams needing to know everything about these people that they're collabing with, so that, if they do get hit with stuff, they're already like 10 steps ahead. They already know how to move forward, or they look into these people's history and think, this is not a good look for us. Let's just keep it pushing, right? So people found that very hard to believe, that they did not know that about the brand, but that's what she said. So let's fast forward here. ABH started partnering with creators. Beforehand, they were never really the brand that relied on affiliate codes, sponsored videos, sponsored posts, stuff like that, but they did recently start doing that, and it came out from some, micro nano influencers that ABH had been reaching out to them for free work. They were basically reaching out to these people saying, we would like this type of post or this type of video, this, that, and third, and we are going to pay you in exposure. I can't walk into Sprint and say, okay, I'm here to pay my bill with exposure. So you can see why people felt some type of way. And then in the midst of these creators saying this, there was one specific instance of a creator who came out and told her story, how Norvina had reached out to her, asked for content. They settled on a price, and then Norvina passed her off to the rest of the team, and where the team just completely did everything opposite of what the creator had agreed with Norvina, and had her in a point where there was no signed contract, because they were saying a price that isn't the price that she quoted or the price that Norvina agreed to. And she went to Norvina because it was like, okay, I made this deal with you, and now your people aren't holding up their end of the bargain, and Norvina like completely ghosted her, like stopped answering her. She was just there. Like, I don't know what to do because the person I made the deal with isn't answering me. The people who I now have to speak to are refusing to abide by the deal that I thought I was making. So I don't know what to do. So when the other creators started talking about how they had reached out for free exposure, she came out, told her story, and then, Norvina was like, hey, call me. I don't know what's going on. Norvina reached out to that creator and said, like, I didn't know this. And you see a pattern here? Like, we can't just keep relying on this whole, like, I don't know, I didn't know. Like, she literally made the deal with you. Literally made the deal with you. And she was literally trying to reach out to you in the same DMs that you made the deal in. Now you didn't see them until it becomes a public thing. You see where this is going here? So there was that issue with ABH, right? And then we have the last few months with the Black Lives Matter movement, pull up or shut up. All these brands, making these announcements to care more about smaller creators, Black creators, to pledge this money, to do that, and to do this. And ABH and Norvina came out. I believe they had to be a little pressured into making a statement, which already wasn't a good look for them, but came out and said, of course, we care about Black lives. We're doing this for that. And then former employees started speaking up and were like, really? You care about Black lives? Because you surely didn't when I was working there. And they went on to tell their stories about working at the company, and people started pulling up Glassdoor. If you guys don't know that website, it's a website where you can go and leave reviews for companies that you've worked for before. People started pulling up multiple reviews from people who had worked for the brand before, where they were all saying the same thing, how it's kind of a very toxic environment to work in, especially if you're a woman. And like all of these things just started getting posted about ABH. So people started, pulling that card. Like, you say this about, especially what you're putting out into the beauty creator industry, but you're not even putting that energy into the people who work for you. So it was yet another thing, what do you call that? Let's just exposing ABH, let's say that. And now here we are. So you have to ask yourself, what happened to the brand in just a year? They made that little comeback early or mid 2019, and now here we are in mid 2020, and they have left a bad taste in so many people's mouths. Like, I just saw, I guess they're launching something new, and the response to it is so different than how it was just 6 months ago. So you have to ask yourself, what happened? Norvina happened. That's what happened to the brand. Norvina let the attention and the hype that not only the brand but she herself was getting go to her head. And you have to think about it. Again, what I was saying earlier in the video about remaining grounded when especially in this industry, when you do start getting that type of attention, because it is very easy to let it go to your head and to start feeling some type of way. Who wouldn't want, people arguing and fighting for your attention? Literally people fighting for her attention, fighting to want to be seen whenever she posts anything. You tweet something, within 5 minutes, it's got 2,000 replies, 16,000 likes, people calling themselves your whores. I will never get over that. People calling themselves your whores, getting tattoos of your brand on them, knowing that you could say something, and if one person disagrees with you, 500 people are going to jump on that person and attack them. It's not right, it's not right to let all of that go to your head, but it is very easy for that to go to someone's head, again, which is why you need to work on yourself and remaining grounded throughout all of that. And it went to her head, and she kind of started blurring the lines between you being the president of a very popular brand out there and an influencer. And at some point, for a lot of people, it started to feel like Norvina would have preferred being an influencer than the president of Anastasia Beverly Hills. You got these posts, everyone, you post, oh, I'm finally done working for the day, now I get to be home. Okay, queen, What are you gonna do for the day? What are you gonna have for dinner? You know, it was giving very influencer type lifestyle. You post a picture, it's getting a whole lot more likes than it was getting before you were so visible on the internet. But that's the thing though, when you are still the president of the company, because when you make yourself that visible, yeah, it's cool. You know, people feel like they're having these direct conversations with a brand owner, but you know what she's not going to like? When you make yourself that visible of a brand owner, people have direct access when they're unhappy. Now, me being in the industry, yes, I know where to go if I'm looking for the owner of Jouer. I know where to go if I'm looking for the owner of Uma Beauty. I would say most of the people watching this video probably don't know who either of those people are. And that's because they have a presence on social media, but they stay out of the mix. You know, they're just kind of blowing through the wind there, because when you make yourself a very visible brand owner, now people have a direct line to go to when they're upset. You know, all these other brands, if Jouer does something that upsets the public, people are most likely going to go to Jouer's Instagram page, Jouer's Twitter page, and, you know, rant there, attack the people who are running the brand's social media page. That's where people are going to go. When you make yourself such a visible brand owner, they don't have to do that. I can go directly to you. I'm going to go directly to Norvina and say, why are you partnering with an MLM? Why are you, you know, reaching out to, well, your company, reaching out to, or well, you, creators and not paying them? Why this? Why that? Why that? And she didn't like that part of the attention that being an influencer brand owner brought her. And it was like, there are only so many times as the president of the company that you can say, I don't know, where it's just kind of like, come on, like, really? Especially when you're a brand owner who at other times prides herself for how involved she is with the company. You know, pride herself for how involved she is with the community, with how involved she is with speaking with people directly on social media. For you to then turn around and say, like, I didn't know that my brand partnered with this type of brand, or I didn't know, or I don't have control of the PR list when I personally put so many of you on the PR list. Like, it just got very tiring for people to hear and for people to say. And at some point, like, you can only say those things so many times to where people don't believe it anymore. And it kind of comes off as like a cop-out for taking responsibility for your brand as the owner president. And I feel like the perfect example for this is Rihanna. Think back to like 2010 Rihanna, Miss Good Luck Finding That Stage You Speak Of Rihanna. Let's put our net worths against each other. Rihanna, she was that, listen, you didn't want to try Rihanna because she was that celebrity that was going to respond to you, okay? Pop star, global, and everything. She was gonna make time for you. But she came out with Fenty Beauty, came out with Savage, came out now Fenty Skin, you know, changed the LinkedIn profile picture. She started carrying herself in a different way because making money as a brand owner was more important than kikiing on the internet. She still does that, of course, but she doesn't do it to the same level that she used to. She kind of pulled back from that. I'm sure she has more important things to do than go back and forth on Twitter. But you can see that shift that she made when she became a business owner. And you look at other influencers, you see the shift in the content that they post, or how often they post, or how they engage on social media once they become a brand owner. And it's just the way that it is. You have to carry yourself differently when you own a brand, and it might seem unfair, but it's not just about you now that you have a brand. The way you carry yourself when you're just a content creator, or you're just a sole celebrity, and really, like, at most you have an assistant who's relying on you, maybe a makeup team and stuff like that who's relying on you, is different how you have to carry yourself, because when you own a business now, there are so many more people that are relying on you. Look at any of these instances where you own a business, maybe a show, you say the wrong thing, now you're out of a job. You're a celebrity. You'll probably be okay, though. You know, you're a millionaire. You probably retire right now. You're out of a job. Your corporate team is out of a job, or your executive team is out of a job. Like I said, a show, your cast is out of a job. The production team is out of a job. So yeah, it seems unfair, but there are so many more people relying on you now that that's just what it is, that you have to carry yourself differently, because if you say something that messes it up, you're messing it up for a whole lot more people who don't have the sources that you do to keep it pushing if you mess up to the point to now everyone's out of a job. And in this instance where it would be like, okay, there's her, there's the corporate team, and then you've got people who are working in the stores. You've got their makeup artists. You've got sales associates. So again, like I said, unfair, possibly, but again, you're making millions on the other end. So trust me, you'll get over it. Do I consider it a downfall? No, I don't. That's why I didn't title it the same way I titled the other brands I talked about in this series. It's definitely a bump in the road for them. But they still have stands, you know, they, like I said, they're launching something new. There are people still excited for it. They still have people who are going to heavily defend them. They're still gonna make lots of money, but they're definitely at that point where it's kind of like they're Regina George. And we're at that point in the movie where, you know, she's being isolated and people are kind of like turning their nose up at her, and she's realizing like, oh, my actions have consequences and I've upset a lot of people. Like, that's where we are right now. Even though I don't consider a downfall, what can they do to fix this? Because that's a lot of mishaps in just a year, especially in just a year where they had so quickly built themselves back up to at the top of the food chain where they once were to now where they are in this kind of weird situation where people just feel weird about the brand. Like, where do we stand at this point? What could they do? I feel like they already know what they have to do, and you've already seen it. You've already seen a pullback from Norvina on being such a public figure. You know, a lot of people have said that the problem is Norvina, and I think, you know, she has either come to the realization or someone came to it for her that is like, we're gonna have to make that decision on, are you going to be that brand owner who has a presence, but it's like the other brand owners where, you know, you're just kind of like blowing throughout the wind? Because there was a point where, like I said, like in group chats with people, she knew about people's relationship statuses. She knew your Fashion Nova post was going up this day. Like, very, very connected with the people who were following her, which is a nice thing, but I think it's shown that like we can't balance the two. So make that decision if you're whether you're gonna have a presence, but just kind of or like not at all. There are some brand owners that like they don't need that presence like at all. Maybe that is better to not have it at all for her, but definitely needs to take a step back, and already has started taking a step back, because especially on Twitter, I don't even think she's tweeted since like June. And before, you know, the latest thing that had happened, like she had already kind of started to pull back from being on Twitter and being so social with people, because I think like it started kicking in like, this is not a good look. And quite honestly, like, you know, we can't all be Rihanna or Fenty Beauty. And I've said that before with some other brands, where a lot of brands have this desire to just want to be that trendy brand, be the cool mom brand that you want to go to, and they kiki with you and they share memes and they stay on trends and they do all of this, and that's not going to work for every brand. You need to find your own brand identity. What they need to do is fix their brand internally, because from those reviews from employees, there's a problem internally with the brand. They need to fix the brand internally, and then they need to figure out the best way to market the ABH brand and sister brand Norvina brand publicly that suits them best. Not, you know, this kind of works for them, so let's take a little bit. You need to figure it out for yourselves. One, what your brand identity is, because like I said, they are two very different brands. You need to figure out how you're going to move forward with them at the same time. So figure out your brand identities, and then figure out how you're going to present those identities to the public authentically, you know? So it's like, I think we've seen the whole influencer brand owner isn't going to work for you. You know, maybe the trendy meme brand isn't going to work for you. So find the way that is going to work for you while there's still time to find it. and presented. So that is it for this video. I feel like I've been talking forever. I really hope this video is not that long. Even making a timeline, I feel like there are things I still forgot to mention. But yeah, that is it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about everything that has happened with ABH in the last year, where you stand with the brand, all that good stuff down below. Make sure to thumbs up, comment, and subscribe down below. Someone has been reminding me in my comments lately to remind you guys to also turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next downfall, whatever type of commentary like this video that I post. So also do that down below. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next one.